Torii au decis ca acest panel să fie în limba engleză, așadar o să vorbim în engleză. That's it. Good morning. Dear participants, thank you for joining us today. We also thank those who watch us on live streaming platforms. I'm Ionel Lespuc. Here I represent the Romanian National Television, one of the partners of this event. At the very beginning, allow me to invite Mr. Stelian Brad, the president of Cluj IT Cluster, on stage. Please, Mr. Brad. Good morning.
Morning, and
how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. And first of all, thank you very much to all of you because of joining our event. Actually, we are in the third day of Cluj Innovation Days. It's a third day because actually there are 10 days of Cluj Innovation Days. It's an important moment for the history of Cluj IT Cluster because now we celebrate 10 years of existence as well as 10 years of Cluj Innovation Days. And I like to use this opportunity to let you know that the coin of innovation in Cluj was set up by Cluj IT Cluster 10 years ago. Since then, we were a source of inspiration for many other initiatives in the field of innovation, of digital innovation. And of course, this year, because of this celebration, we thought to a very powerful logo. The implication of 1 and 0 digitalization in our life. Actually, if we reflect a little bit about this, imagine something simple, on and off, where we transpose the information. Our brain is transformed in a combination of on and off. And what happened with this? We succeeded to transfer our intelligence to machines because of this. This is something extraordinary because with the development of communication technologies later on, now we have in the position to collect the intelligence worldwide. Actually, we have the capacity for bringing the human intelligence, the collective intelligence to machines and trying to do our world better. It is actually the core topic of this morning panel, where of course I'm deeply honored and delighted to introduce to you our keynote speaker. She is professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the United States of America, actually the director of the Lab of Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence. It's a remarkable scientist, worldwide recognized, and of course, we are happy as Cluj IT and honor in the same time to introduce to you Professor Daniela RUS. Please applaud her.
Professor Daniela RUS.
The stage is yours.
Thank you, Stelian, for this kind of introduction, and thank you all for being here so early today.
Okay, because my technological knowledge is limited, let me invite here with us Andrei Kelemen, the CEO of Cluj IT Cluster. Please, Andrei. Say welcome to the audience, please.
Good morning from my side as well. Thank you everybody for coming today here. As Stelian was mentioning, we are celebrating 10 years since Cluj IT has been established as an organization, and 10 years since this conference is happening. So some history behind us. But as we promised, we will not be looking too much in the past. We would rather look in the future. And today here, we should have had Mrs. Monica Gyurko. And as for some unfortunate reasons, she was not able to join us here in Cluj. This was something that we learned yesterday, and as you can see, it takes 2 men to replace a woman.
I am Monica Gyurko.
I'm absolutely sure we will do the half a job that Monica Gyurko would have done if she was here. I'm very delighted to have Professor RUS here with us. Yesterday she was at the Technical University here in Cluj-Napoca, and she was awarded the Doctor Honoris Causa title, and I take the chance to congratulate you for this.
Thank you.
And yes, I think that's it. And we prepared some questions for Professor RUS, but we would also want to give you the chance to ask maybe some questions that you would have later on. So
a few words about the protocol. For 20 minutes, we propose a discussion on several topics. In the remaining 40 minutes, Professor Daniela RUS will be at your disposal for questions, mainly on the topics addressed at the beginning of this panel. Okay, we can proceed? No.
Let's go.
Okay. The first topic I want to cover is technology and society. What is the concrete and immediate impact of AI and robotics in our lives? How much do technologically advanced countries focus on integrating AI and automation in economy and society?
Well, that's a big question, Ionel, and I will say that today AI and robotics and automation are the focus of progress and advancement all over the world. And for me, this is an extraordinary time because it's a moment when we can really imagine how AI and robotics can support people with cognitive and physical tasks. If you think about where we were about 20 years ago, right? So 20 years ago, computation was exotic. It was for experts only. Computers were big, they were expensive. You really needed to have certain knowledge in order to know what to do with them. But today, everyone computes. Everyone computes because you all have smartphones. And it's really extraordinary to think about the transformation that has happened in society because of that, because of the smartphone, because of the IT infrastructure. Just try to imagine a day in your lives without IT, without the World Wide Web. No smartphones, no social media, no digital media, no diagnosis imaging. What would that be like? So we already have this. But now, with the next level of technologies, with AI and robotic technologies, we can begin to think about a future where a lot of the routine things that we do could be passed on to machines, because machines are so much better than we are at crunching numbers, at finding patterns, at moving with precision. And so I believe that we can all benefit from a life with machines in the future, with machines doing what they are best at and people doing what they are best at. And just imagine a day when you will not have to carry heavy bags because you will have robots that will carry them for you. And those robots already exist, by the way. The company Piaggio Fast Forwards, the same company that it's a sister company of the Piaggio Group, which makes the most exciting motorcycles and scooters. Well, this company has built a little robot called the Jita robot, and it follows you. It carries your groceries with you or anything you want to put in it. It's kind of fun, right? It's exciting. So imagine if your food shows up at your doorsteps delivered by drones. Imagine if you have assistants that, whether they are robots embodied or not, these assistants will support you with everything you do to ensure that you live well and you work effectively. the transformation will be extraordinary. So there's a lot of investment because this is a kind of a dream that goes back to the golem. It goes back to antiquity, right? We've been wanting to have machines that are built in our own image and that are obedient and do things for us since the beginning of mankind. But today, we have these new technologies. We have AI, we have machine learning, and we have robotics. And these technologies have advanced to the point where they're useful. Now, in AI, in machine learning, you should know that, in fact, the methods that we have today, what we're applying today, are ideas that were invented decades ago, 40 years ago, in fact. But these ideas work now because we have more data and we have more computation. And that means that if we have fields with data and if we have a lot of computation, those fields can benefit. Well, how can they benefit? Well, we can imagine a future where there are no road accidents, where traffic is safe. We can imagine a future where we can better diagnose, monitor, and treat disease, where each one of us gets treatments that are targeted to our own bodies. We can imagine a world where we don't have to learn English, all of us, so we can communicate, where we have instantaneous translation from any language to any other language. We can imagine a world where your information is safe. We can imagine a world where machines take routine tasks and allow people to work on the fun tasks, on the creative tasks.
It sounds absolutely amazing, and I'm sure that most of us, we imagine this world. But what is the price tag? Because we have to address also the fears related to AI. And there are more and more voices, some of them quite prominent, who speak about the dangers of AI and technology in general. And if I'm looking, for example, at how technology has changed the way in which we communicate, it's absolutely dramatic. We tend to communicate less as person to person. We communicate through social platforms. Everybody has a voice, which is not bad per se, but we see now the side effects of that. How do you see this?
Well, yeah, that's another very big question. So let me see if I can gather my thoughts. First of all, let me tell you that when I tell people what I do, I usually get one of two reactions. So some people make jokes about Skynet and ask me when their jobs will disappear. That's the first category. Some people ask me, great, when is my car going to be self-driving? And, as a technologist, I belong to the second category, but I think it's very important to address the fears of the first category. And that starts with understanding that AI, machine learning, robots, they are just tools. They are tools that the people invented for the people. And like any other tools, they're not intrinsically good or bad. They are what we choose to do with them. And we can choose to do extraordinary things. Now, this doesn't mean that as we develop the technology, there aren't potential side effects and potential negative consequences on jobs and on disinformation and on equity. So there are, and even on the environment actually, because machine learning has a huge carbon footprint. But as we become aware of these tools, we can begin to think about developing technology with the right guardrails that ensure that there are benefits. And so I am a technology optimist, but this doesn't mean that we don't think about what could go wrong. In fact, whenever we start a new project at MIT, we do think about what could possibly go wrong, and then we try to put the guard. We try to develop technology with that view in mind. So you talked about how we communicate so much better. So it is absolutely true that the IT platforms, we can now, everyone has a voice. You can publish whatever you want. You don't need to have an editor like your book. You can publish your book, and that's extraordinary. On the other hand, you can also create echo chambers and disinformation. So, for instance, I read somewhere that the disinformation about vaccines was due to 8 people. So 8 people have started disinformation that impacted millions and millions of people around the globe, and I'm speaking about the COVID vaccines here. And so it's important, really, it's important to be aware about deep fakes, about the possibility for disinformation, and create the policies and the technology solutions that prevent us from going that path. But I don't believe you can stop technology from evolving and from changing the world. But what we can do is we can pause to think about consequences, and then we can put in place the guardrails to address them. So yes, there are issues. There are issues with disinformation. We should work on those. There are issues with deep fakes. We should work on those. There are also issues with equity and with jobs. So, as I said, technology is so empowering, but at the same time, so many people are suffering around the world. Why should they care about machines, right? I mean, that's a kind of a normal question to ask. But in fact, people should care about machines, because it is the machines and the technology that are giving us solutions to some of the most pressing problems of our times, whether you're aware of those or not. And so, for instance, machine learning has enabled us to get to a vaccine against COVID in 3 months. Without machine learning, it would have taken years. Now imagine the toll on humankind if we had waited so much time in isolation or exposing ourselves to a version of the virus that was so lethal. Machine learning has and technology has enabled us to have telemedicine, which is extraordinary, right? Because then, because people can get access to expertise from far away, and people were able to get to doctors even when the physical world was not so safe. Technology is enabling transportation. Technology is enabling a lot of the aspects of our lives, but we have to think about how these benefits can be truly democratized and can impact everyone. And so I'm going to say one more thing about jobs, because you asked me about jobs. And I will tell you that today's solutions are not so powerful that they can take down the world. They're not so powerful that they can solve all of our problems. They are primarily solutions about crunching through numbers, finding patterns better than humans can, moving with precision better than humans can. So there is extraordinary potential and advantage from these attributes of what the tools can do, but they can't do everything. And so it's not useful to think about it's people or machines in the workforce. It's much more useful to think about people and machines, because people are better at some things and machines are better at other things. And in every job, people do different kinds of work. So in every job, you apply expertise, you talk to others, you engage stakeholders, you do data tasks, data access, data entry, you do predictable physical work tasks, you do unpredictable physical work tasks. Right now, machines can automate the data tasks and the predictable physical work. They cannot automate the unpredictable physical work. It's much harder to get a robot to clean your tabletop than to send a robot to Mars. Okay, so the jobs are not going away anytime soon, but in the future they will. But we have time to prepare. In fact, there are all kinds of studies that show that about 50% of the existing jobs are likely to see changes and to see declines. But this is not going to happen tomorrow. And so we can take action to help everyone. We can help reskill people. We can rethink our education systems so that in 10 years' time, everyone will have the technological skills that are necessary to invest in or to participate in jobs that require the use of technology. And this doesn't mean you have to be a technologist, because, for instance, if you create social media content, you're not a technologist, but you are taking advantage of an underlying technology that has now created a new role, a new opportunity. You could be an influencer, you can be a YouTuber, you can create, you can have a lot of creative jobs because there is this underlying substrate.
It is obvious that the young people are more and more passionate about technology. How do we channel their interest so that they do useful things, not just play on the tablet?
Well, yes, that's again an important question, because playing on the tablet doesn't really require skill, but doing things requires skill. So my aspiration is really to introduce computational thinking as part of literacy for the future. So I would really love to see every school have a computer science teacher, so that all of our children can learn foundations. And because the way I see it, those of us who can program, but not just computer science skills, I also want them to learn how to make things. So computational thinking and computational making are foundational to me to being able to participate in the future. And the way I see it, those of us who know how to make things and then breathe life into what we make through programming, we have superpowers, because we can then make real the things that we imagine. Right now, if you imagine something, you can write it, you can write about it. But imagine a future where if you want something, if you imagine something, you can actually make it, and you can create it yourself. So I would really love to see a transformation in education. And in fact, this transformation is already happening in many countries around the world. There are many countries around the world where computer education is introduced with kindergarten and with first grade. And then it carries through schooling, and those kids will be ahead of the kids who do not have this kind of education, because computational thinking requires different skills than math or physics or everything else we learn. Computational thinking is about taking big problems and breaking them down into sub-problems. So a task that seems daunting, it seems impossible to solve, all of a sudden becomes real, becomes possible to solve if you take the problem and then you think, oh, well, what do I need to solve in order to have a solution for my big problem? And then how can I iterate? So this kind of abstractization and modularization, which are foundational to problem solving with computers, is not taught in schools right now. And so now let me just say one more thing about this. I believe we should do computational thinking and computational making, but this is not at the expense of the other disciplines. I think it's very important to continue to study history, because it's important to know how the world works. It's important to know literature and art and geography. It's really important to have broad education. But this broad education should also include an aspect of computing.
We touched upon the way in which technology impacts the society. We touched upon the future of work as you see it. Again, impacted by technology, and then education. I think another question or another issue that maybe we could address with your help is, how do we, as a Western society, because Romania now is part, let's say, of the Western society, Western civilization, how do we relate to what is happening across the globe? Because as you said, in some parts of the globe, technology is already something that is taught from very early age, from kindergarten even. while we see here, especially in the Western society again, that we use technology, but we don't understand it.
Yeah, that's another big question. There are differences around the world, and I'll give you an example. My colleague and friend Jan Lecun, who is a recent Turing Award winner and is credited with being part of the trio that invented deep neural networks, talks about how he goes to Asia and people stop him in the street for an autograph. In some sense, when he goes to Asia, he's the equivalent of Lady Gaga, right? So that's what, he's the hero that the local children look up to. And so I think that it's, I think that scientists are heroes. In fact, let's think about the following question. Who saved us during the pandemic? It was really science that saved us during the pandemic, right? It was computer science, it was biology, it was behavioral science that all came together to design the vaccine and to design the methods that allowed the world to respond. And so I think that we need to change our view about who the heroes are. And I would really love to see a near future where scientists are seen for the heroes that they are. And as I said, in some parts of the world, this is already happening. In other parts of the world, we are waiting. We're waiting more slowly. I was joking with Andrei yesterday, and I was saying that next year, the tickets to the festival Untold should be given at the IT Cluj Day. So you can go to Untold if you participate in IT Cluj Day.
I didn't take it as a joke. I took it as a suggestion, and we might be talking to the people at Untold and maybe forge a partnership.
I understood Lady Gaga is not a hero.
Oh, she's a hero also. She's my hero. But she's so she's a hero also. But we can have different kinds of heroes, right? I mean, we can have music heroes. We can have athletic heroes. We can have medical heroes. We should also have science heroes.
I think it's one of the best ways to bring science closer to people, to ordinary people, to understand the benefits of science and technology and innovation. I cannot, refrain from this following question or issue that I would like to raise with you. Obviously, you are from here, from Romania. You built your entire professional career, which is absolutely amazing, over in United States. What do you think Romania should do to have an environment where people like yourself would not look to other places, other geographical destinations where they can fulfill themselves professionally, I mean? What do you think we should do?
Well, I think that people like to chase dreams and opportunities, and so to the extent there are opportunities that enable people to follow and realize their dreams, I think that will be extraordinary. I think the Romanian education is fantastic. I benefited from a really great education when I was a kid in school in Romania. In fact, I had amazing training in math and physics and history and literature and art, and I found useful even the fact that we had to go 1 week a month to work in a factory, because I learned how to use machines, and now I use those machines to make robots. So this breadth of education is really extraordinary. Now the question is, how can we leap? How can we leap from the foundations to making things, to creating things? And I would love to encourage the local ecosystem to think entrepreneurially, to create opportunities for people to express themselves by creating companies, by by building new types of classes, by making stronger connections between industry, academia, and policy. And because that's how the society flourishes. Change is happening, and so the local ecosystem needs to think about change and how to turn the change into opportunities rather than worry about change as a danger.
Yes, absolutely. In line with what we are doing at Cluj IT, we defined ourselves as an agent of change, and we are trying to contribute in building this ecosystem, to enable this ecosystem to function, where we see projects that are happening between various stakeholders, various actors, from academia, from business, from the public sector as well. I think we should move now to the public and take a couple of questions from the people who are here in the audience. We have an online audience as well. Unfortunately, we will not be able to take online questions. We would rather prioritize you, the people who made the effort to be here today. So let's see. I think we have some microphones in the room, so just raise your hand if you want to address a question to Professor RUS.
Or more than one.
Or more than one, yes.
Please tell us your name.
We can hear you.
Okay, but for the transmission online, I think we need the audio channel. So let's make sure we have a working.
Okay, now it's working now.
Okay.
Hello,
Please
Professor.
introduce yourself.
Hello, Professor. My name is Andrei Nistor. I am the head of PR and communication at Cluj IT. I've heard you spoke about robots as tools for humans. You said it right now. How far are we from a world where humans became tools for robots? And maybe it sounds weird, but at the public level, there is this kind of I don't know how to put it. It's a problem, you know. There are a lot of people thinking that we are very, very close to a world where robots rules and humans are only tools. Thank you.
I want to ask you a question. How many robots have you seen today? Where are the robots? No, seriously. Where do you see any robots? I don't see. There's one robot arm out there. What does it do?
There are 3 outside.
3, okay.
Yes.
So,
social robots.
You know, it's not like the robots are not that advanced, and I actually don't believe in Terminator scenarios. As I said, where are the robots? There are no robots in the streets. There are hardly any robots around us. We have robots in factories, and but those robots are extraordinary. They're masterpieces of engineering. They can do so much more than humans, and they enable manufacturing. And so they do really, they're extraordinary tools that are doing great things for us. Those robots have to stay isolated from people on the factory floor because they are dangerous and heavy and not good to be around. The robots of the future that we imagine, we imagine them as safe tools that can coexist with people. We imagine a different kind of robot that is safe, that is soft, that is truly a partner. And we get to decide how to make that robot. That robot will not take off all on its own. that robot is exactly what we do. It's exactly the body that we design, exactly the program that we put inside the body. And the robot always has the kill button. So if you don't like what it's doing, you can push the kill button and you can stop the robot. So please don't worry about the robots coming to get us, because it will be, perhaps they will, right? I mean, perhaps they will. But worrying about whether robots come to get us today is kind of like worrying about overcrowding on Mars. It may happen sometime in the future, but that future is so far away, I can't even wrap my head around it. I can't even imagine. And so robots may come to get us in this kind of super distant future. But in the meantime, today, robots can help save lives through surgical machines that allow people access to doctors' expertise from far away. Robots can enable better manufacturing. Robots can enable a wide set of services for us right today, not in the distant future.
Thank you.
Another question?
Hello, my name is Robert Stanciulescu, and I have a question for the lady professor and a suggestion for you as an organizer. I start with a suggestion. We are at IT Innovation Days and you use paper to take notes. That's a very good improvement, I said. Maybe next time you don't use paper. And for lady professor, I will make a short introduction. You said that technology is like a tool. When we think of the tools, we think the hammer or shovel or something like this. When you do not need a shovel or a hammer, you throw away. And he do not come after you. He do not come to manipulate your children. He do not come to manipulate you. The hammer or the shovel do not manipulate the election. What is your opinion about that? Because from my point of view, majority of the people are not prepared to take face with the technology, because they cannot throw away the technology and said, okay, tomorrow I will not use the technology like I can do with a hammer. What is your opinion about that?
Well, first of all, let me say that I love paper too, and I love to write things on paper. Not printed, but with my pencil, because it helps me think. So when you write on paper, you kind of help your creative processes and your cognitive processes. So I disagree with you on the use of paper versus the use of technology. I think we need to hang on to everything around us that is not technological, that helps us understand better. Now, with respect to the question about tools, it's kind of interesting because the tools are evolving. And so hammer and shovel, this is the first category of tools that are sort of inert, that don't do anything by themselves. They really need human action. And this is, I guess, these tools, you can think of them as the zeroth order tools. But we can think about tools as being gradually more intelligent. So we can think about tools that can do a little bit by themselves, or that tools that you can program to do certain things. But you still need to do. You still need to be there to program every aspect of it. So much of what we do with computers and with smartphones can be thought of in this category. The industrial manipulators are tools in that category. Now, as we advance machine learning and AI and our theories of control, we can make these tools become increasingly more independent. But not to the point where they take over. The human is always the one who says, what the tool does and for how long. So I'll give you an example. We have extraordinary tools for scientific discovery. We have robots that are studying Mars. Right? So we have a spirit and opportunity, and we have perseverance and ingenuity, who have been studying Mars. And studying Mars really gives us a lot of information about our own planet and what we can imagine or what we can project for the trajectory of our planet. We couldn't really do that unless we had these types of more advanced tools. But even with the robots on Mars, every day somebody tells those robots what to do. And then they have the ability to operate a little bit independently for some period of time. So I agree with you that it's not good for us to be so dependent on technology that we are no longer able to be humans, that we no longer exercise our creativity, our ability to form passions, to be friends. The way I like to think about it is that machines have chips and humans have hearts. And so the best combination is when you have the heart of the human supported by the chip and the processing power of machines.
Okay, let's see. I think we have a couple of more questions.
Yes, my name is Carl McFall, and I've lived here in Romania now for 3 years, and work here with EU projects in Cluj. And working with EU projects, there is always regulatory aspects, and you might know my fellow countryman Max Tegmark, who wrote this book Life 3.0. And where he describes his evolution from life 1.0, bacteria who can replicate their hardware, but they don't have much of software in terms of knowledge. And then life 2.0, us, who can develop very much our sort of knowledge and culture, but we can't really clone ourselves like bacteria, right? So, and then we reach a stage on this planet, which is the only sort of place we know so far, having organic life, and we reach a stage where we somehow are able to create a new life form which can both replicate its hardware in terms of robotics and software in terms of AI. So intelligent machines, right? Artificial intelligent machines. And then we have, emerging think tanks discussing the ethical aspects, and now we only have one chance to think before. So it's like a little bit like the atomic bomb or something. What might this lead to in this kind of R&D trial and error process? Does this activate yet a lot of sort of governance, like we have, for example, in medicine, stem cell research or other fields of sciences can be quite regulated in terms of ethical aspects and so on, which can lead to chilled innovation. And that leads, so we have United States, Europe, Asia, different innovation zones, which are the more regulated or mature in terms of, we are lagging far behind in terms of digital platform economics in Europe. The United States and Asia won that race because it was more liberal markets for R&D in that field. Here is more data management regulated, right? And now we are discussing these new children who learn about computer thinking, computer making. Where is the most attractive innovation place for them right now in these zones in terms of the resources being put into it, but also from the other end, do you see any discussions on governmental levels to regulate this kind of field of research, R&D?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there is a new organization. It's called GPAI. It's called Global Partnerships in AI. Many countries around the world have membership. I don't think Romania has anybody, but many countries around the world have delegates. And the purpose of this organization is to think globally about the deployment of AI technologies, both in terms of ensuring a kind of a democratization. So how can you help small and medium-sized enterprises benefit from AI when they may not have AI expertise in-house? What needs to happen? But also there is a branch of this organization that is focused on asking regulatory questions. What should we be thinking about in order to regulate AI? And I would say that the field itself is very young. So physics, chemistry, they are much older fields. They had matured to a point where they had to ask questions about the implications of what they did on humanity a long time ago. And indeed, those conversations have happened, and there is now a set of rules and ethical principles for how to develop in those fields. Computer science is a very young field. Right? Computer science is barely 50, 60 years old. It's not hundreds of years old. And up until recently, computers didn't do so much. Right? 20 years ago, you had to be an expert in order to use a computer. But now the technologies or the capability of our field has sped up and has gotten to the point where it's useful broadly in society. And so this is the right time to think about what should be the ethical principles for using AI and for using machines, and how to be responsible when we have these powerful tools in our hands. So there are a lot of conversations that are taking place around these topics. Many organizations are putting out ethics principles, and some organizations are beginning to put in place action. And I personally believe that these conversations really require policymakers, technologists, and business leaders, because I think that there's still a lot of misunderstanding about what is possible and what is not possible. So the policies that have to be put in place should be lightweight to encourage innovation, but at the same time should be strong enough to ensure that the use of these advanced technologies is for the greater good. It's not for negative and bad actions. And so, I mean, in some sense, some of the solutions can be technological. For instance, take the issue of privacy. Data is so valuable in training machine learning for medical use. But at the same time, data is so personal and private. So how can we have the best of both worlds? People are worried about giving their data because there could be negative consequences from insurance companies, and who knows from what other kinds of bad actors. But with the use of technology, we have a new set of solutions called homomorphic encryption, where it is possible to compute without encrypting data. So this is an example where technological advancement in developing algorithms that allow us to do computation on encrypted data without decrypting it is really enabling us to think about bringing data-driven solutions to other fields, because you can give people you can put people in charge of their data, and that data could be encrypted so that only you know how to use it. And so there is a whole slew of technologies like homomorphic encryption. This is a mouthful, but it really only means that you can compute on encrypted data. Now, homomorphic encryption is not fully developed, I should say. There are very important aspects of computation that are not practical in homomorphic encryption yet, but the field itself is advancing. 5 years ago, it was mostly theory. Now you can do a lot of things. You can do k-nearest neighbors, for instance, in homomorphic encryption. And if you do machine learning, you know what that means. So, so there is a way for bringing technological solutions to solve the problems that technology creates.
One more question, the last one, I think, Mr. Sarmash. Oh, okay.
Hello, I'm Ionel Muntean. I would really like to get your opinion. So we know that USA is a leader in AI, and maybe you can share with us some of the key elements that made USA a leader and how we can use that information so that we can reduce the gap.
Well, a lot of the early innovation on AI, on machine learning, happened in American universities, and so the strong research focus in American universities is really driving the field forward. My organization, CSAIL, goes back to 1956 and 1960, and in 1956, a young faculty member at MIT by the name of Marvin Minsky decided to gather his friends one summer. They went to a nearby state, New Hampshire. They spent a month hiking in the woods of New Hampshire, asking themselves what should be the next academic field of study, what is really important in the world. And when they came out of the woods, they told the world that they coined a new field of study called artificial intelligence, which is about the science and engineering of creating machines with human-like intelligence in how they move in the world, how they see the world, how they play games, even how they learn. And the members of my organization and many other organizations in the US and around the world have been asking questions that directly address that vision of machines with human-like intelligence ever since. So in order to get to applications, we need to develop the field, and then we need to develop the infrastructure that enables the application of the field. I mentioned that deep neural networks and reinforcement learning, which are the techniques that are yielding the best industry products and outcomes. These techniques have been invented 40 years ago. And they work now because we have the infrastructure, we have the faster computers, we have the data. 20 years ago, we had an AI winter because deep learning didn't really work so well. But putting a lot of, being able to build models that have millions of neurons and that can be trained on a lot of information has made the difference between something that works and something that doesn't work. For instance, GPT-3, which was introduced, I think, about 2 years ago. This is a system with billions of parameters. It's a model with billions of parameters. It was trained on every item of text that is publicly available. The entire text available publicly. Can you imagine? It costs $4.7 million in energy costs to train GPT-3. And now GPT-3 is pretty good at answering many text-based questions, but it also makes mistakes. So it's important to understand that we don't have perfect solutions. The solutions do make mistakes. But back to your question, encouraging creative thought, encouraging asking big questions, and then coming up with solutions, with new solutions that open up the field, that create new capabilities, and that are then empowered by infrastructure is important. With AI, we really need infrastructure. We need the computation and we need the data. And right now, I would say that this is expensive, right? There are a number of companies that have cloud services. You can technically buy cloud services, but you can have as much computation as you want if you can buy it. So an interesting question is, can you build maybe a research infrastructure within Cluj or within Romania that makes it possible to have infinite access to data and computation at a reasonable cost, just like we have infinite access to water at a reasonable cost.
I think that's starting to happen on European level, at least. Hopefully, Romania will be able to benefit from the plans and the resources that are being allocated to building this infrastructure that you're mentioning. Professor Daniela RUS has a very tight schedule. She has just a few more hours here in Cluj. She will be traveling afterwards. So I suggest we stop here. Probably there are other questions that have not been addressed. We will gladly take them if you want as organizers, and we can convey them to Professor Daniela RUS and facilitate a dialogue this way. I take the chance once again to thank you very much for being part of Cluj Innovation Days, for being today here with us physically. This is, I know, a huge effort on your side. And I really hope that we will be able to see you again in the not very distant future with us here. And also I want to thank you for deciding to join as a board member, a strategic board member in Digital Innovation Hub for Society, an initiative that we have just started with the Technical University, with the University in Oradea and the Chamber of Commerce in Bistrița and Săud. And with your guidance and wisdom, probably we'll be able to do better things that otherwise we could coin on our own. So once again, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I have to say that I'm so excited to come to Cluj and see such a flurry of activities in IT. This is exciting because it's just really wonderful. I like to imagine Cluj as the Silicon Valley of Romania, and it's also exciting for me personally because my father was involved in the launch of ITC, the Institute Institutul de Tehnică de Calcul. So it's just really amazing to see how much computing and computer science and IT there is in Cluj because I can see, or I know where it was at the very beginning, and the gradient has been really great. So I wish you to keep the gradient. It's a good one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Let's applaud Professor Daniela RUS. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we will now move into a short, well, not that short, coffee break, approximately 20 minutes. We will reconvene here at 11 o'clock. We will continue the day. We have other guests obviously coming here in front, and we have prepared many other important topics to address. So I invite you now for a coffee break.